morning, everyone. Good evening or almost evening from Saranda, Albania. We finally have some sun. We had a crazy couple of days of storms. We still have a lot of wind from them, but we've had some crazy storms that have ripped through here that have given me an education like no other on these energies. It's um it's fascinating getting this new higher education or this higher education from higher intelligence um, by connecting dots between what inherently I know energetically and being taught and trained um master, not master, we had that whole conversation the other night, fine tuning and really understanding the skill set of energy and learning that through watching how energy plays with our environment and our weather. And I'm starting to, not starting, I have been for many, many years, have been an observer of behavior, of human behavior, and like all of these facets, weather. And I didn't go to space yet with that. I've watched how nature and the world and people all kind of coincidentally act and behave the same way. It's really what my how my brain works. So now to then put that together with how nature just naturally matches the energies of the collective, and is it the chicken or the egg thing? Is it the collective reflecting nature? Is it nature reflecting, or is it all of it? And I think we know here that it is all of it. So this last 24 hours has been energetically so there are not words, and I keep using the words potent because I think it's like when we think we get to intensity at one point. I remember like being like, it's gonna be intense back in like October and November, as far and like a day and energetically. And then all of a sudden we get to now, and I'm like, oh, I want to use that word intense, but I've used it way too much that it takes away the meaning of it. But these last 24 hours have been so intense with this storm, literal storm, energy, geomagnetic storms. There was a KP7 on, I think it was Saturday. And time reality is like really weird right now. But these geomagnetic storms came through, which then I watched these clouds and this chaos in the sky roll through here for the last 2 days. 2 days ago, I was wiped out. I was wiped out. Just I was purging. I was cleansing. I was purging. And when how I express depressed energy is through the emotional portal out. So my emotional portal is my heart. So I tend to take in energies in a feeling way, and so that I express through feeling. But we also do the opposite too as humans, right? We do depress. So I depress many emotions. So when I have to purge, these energies come in really, really heavily, especially in a high magnetic day. It is a full charge and it finds all of the density within us. And these energies come in and hit my dense, blocked, buried emotions that I have depressed low within my consciousness. And when they came up on Saturday, and Lord have mercy, I just sat with the density of grief again. It was like sadness. Sadness was a really, really big was a very big trigger. It was very obvious to me. However, it moved through really quickly, and it was interesting because these big squalls would come through, and storms would just, thunder would roll, and lightning would come through, and these storms, wind would just howl. Like Bud and I hadn't heard the wind howl like it does in this building, like because we hadn't heard the wind that bad, and it would just howl and then move out. And that's how it showed up for me when these energies came through me. So when they came through Mother Earth, through this part of my world, she sent through a really, some like one after another, just waves of storms. And when the sun would just peek out in between and then like be lost again behind darkness, and like the storm would come through and thunder would roll. It was really powerful. And then all of a sudden that wave would hit me and I would feel it energetically and emotionally. But again, it moved through a lot quicker. So that was an interesting thing. And then last night at, that my 3 o'clock in the morning, at that's usually my time when I know that the veil is very thin, which means it's a very quiet space in time, where I typically, and many people do actually, connect with their higher intelligence, their higher self. And that's a lot of times when I kind of get these messages for the daily tune in. But I literally was woken up with an urgency to get my pen. It was time to start writing the message for today. And so I wrote this message all out, and I will have to tell you, it was, there was parts of it that I felt my conscious mind kind of tune out because it was expanding me quickly. It was expanding my mind, and I was like, oh my God, I don't really understand this. Oh my gosh. And I'm writing this message. So as soon as when I was complete with writing it down, I was really tired. So I just like put everything away, turned out the light, and just laid here on the couch and went back to sleep. And not 30 minutes, half hour later, maybe, Bud came out. He was purging for hours, purging. And when he was purging, I'm hearing and I'm paying attention to how this purge is coming out. He is a physical processor of these energies. So they physically, where I'm emotionally triggered by them, he's physically triggered by him. So he's had a lot of gut stuff, which tells me there's a lot of dense energies that are still compacted there. So they were being exposed, they were being exorcised last night with these energies coming in. And he was purging, and when he was purging, I could hear like the anger in the like I was like I could hear the demons coming out, honey. I could hear the demons. Poor man, he was throwing up. I was all like up against the wind. Actually, I didn't have to be up against the door, but I was listening. But just hearing it, I could tell that it was just old energy. It had been in that darkness for a long time, and it was just angry when it came up and out. But he's been pretty much, just worn out all day today. And then this morning, Priya, our older dog, she was fine. And then all of a sudden she came out and she was like not having a seizure, but her head was kind of limp to the left. And she was shaking her ear, and her whole body was broken out, just beet red. And she is a physical processor too, but she has skin problems. Her body is compromised in the skin. Therefore, her body is expressing all of this stuff that's being purged through her skin. So it showed up as an irritation. So I laid her down, and I just made a salve for her and just rubbed it all over her, all natural stuff. And I also did some energy work to help her ground down these energies. Oddly enough, it all disappeared. She's worn out too. She's been sleeping all day because it was like an hour of time that she was just like this. You could see her body was just like, she didn't know what to do with the energies that were being expressed. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now, and a lot of momentum is beginning to organize. Remember, we've got 90 days in this experiment, and as we do this experiment, like your life reality is going to start doing this, because we are putting conscious effort 90 days, almost an hour a day for 5 days, right? So almost an hour a day for 3 months. We are putting our conscious attention on this plot twist that you became clear with over the last few days. Your destination should now be pretty clear as to what your 5D reality looks like. How do you want to experience it? What does that look like? What does your soul want to experience in human form? And when you experience that, you will know that you came here and you evolved your soul in the highest expression of your consciousness in human form. You will know it. What does that plot twist or what does that reality look like? Because the plot twist that we are putting our consciousness on for the next 90 days is being organized, is being organized in consciousness. Therefore, things are going to start speeding up. The organization in the quantum field and the creation of this reality and in physical form is going to come into physical expression when your consciousness is 100% sure and in belief and in resonance with this idea that you have. When it's there, then it comes in. And we are close enough to that 5D expression of all of us here in this community to be able to concentrate and put our consciousness on this plot twist for 90 days and actually have it show up. But it means that we've got to really be able to expand our minds beyond what we have ever known. We have to be willing to go into and consider and contemplate knowledge that might spin us out a little bit, that might want to frighten us, but there's a curiosity enough to hold on and not go to fear, but go to curiosity. There's today's message really expanded me so much that it took me almost out of consciousness. I had to get out of consciousness and keep writing so that when I woke back up after finally, like, everybody calmed down, like I went back to sleep after my download, and then everybody got up and was crazy, and Pepe was barking all night. Like, there was chaos in the nighttime. We all fell asleep. And when I woke up and then read this message that had come through, I barely remembered writing it. So this is higher knowledge that even I had to kind of tune out of, and I have to keep tuning back into to read. So I'm going to just fully read it without stopping, so you can get just the words. You can get the coding through the words. If you notice that you may tune out of this, it just means that your mind's expanding. And also, I will remind you that this is a completely a free will zone here. So whatever I read here, if there's anything in there that does not resonate, you just simply leave it. All it means is it's too soon. You're not ready to hear that piece yet, and it's okay. You are going to hear out of this what is in your best awareness to pay attention to. Okay. So just hear what is yours to hear, and you will know what is yours to hear because you'll hear it. And if you tune out of a certain part, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't feel like you have to come back. There's going to be parts of this, because there were parts that I quite wasn't ready to understand. So my mind just kind of like tuned out of it. But then I read it again and I pulled that back in. I'm like, okay, there's something here for me. So this is where our minds are expanding, because today you're going to listen to this message and you're going to just simply allow this to integrate into the parts of it that are true for you, to integrate into your being, to then start to recognize how your thoughts and your feelings start to adjust to the resonance, the higher resonance of this message, and it will bring you up another notch, so to speak. I don't know what that notch is, but that's what I'm like kind of seeing, is another notch on the frequency meter. Because remember, your plot twist is here, you are here, and the point of this 90 days is to every single day committedly and dedicatedly move up the scale of your higher frequency, of your emotional intelligence, to then match that reality where you jump in. Okay, so listen to today's openly, and it's going to stretch you. Okay, bear with me on this. All right. Okay, the title is Your Destination Has Been Locked In. Okay, upload complete. We have received the details of your 5D life, which was the plot twist direction from the intentional portal tossing rituals of the last few days. With our work together, we have exchanged critical data to pinpoint the now moment in space and time, where the moment of re entry into your soul path will take place. You will continue to be prepped and trained for this re entry point over the next 90 days. This entry point in time was a time in the past when one decision bumped you off your resonant soul reality, which was your direct route to ascension. This bump caused a wrinkle in time, which skipped you down a pathway that was greatly out of resonance with your direct route. You actually crash landed in the incorrect reality. What we witnessed from there was the greatest survival and recovery story ever written. We witnessed a soul, you, travel a dense world while dutifully growing and holding your high frequency, holding your light. We recognize you, sweet soul, for doing the work of a starseed even after finding yourself in a low resonating world. You continued the mission even when you lost your way. You continued to seed your way with light even after falling painfully from the grace of your divine timeline. Those seeds are about ready to be harvested. There is nothing wrong or dangerous with being lost on a lower timeline. Quite the contrary. Being lost showed you who you are and what you're made of. It's how you remember to feel your way through the dark rather than seeing. It's when you remember your survival isn't about having a home, but being at home in peace, even when you are lost. You have traveled that dense timeline long enough, dear one. It's time to go home. Home to peace, home to your divine timeline, the one you co-created with Source as the ultimate expression of your true divine essence in physical form. It's time to harvest the seeds you dutifully sowed while lost and reap the abundance of the light you sowed long ago. We are moving you back through time to that bumpy moment when you jumped off course with that wrinkle in time. This process will take approximately 90 days of your linear time. As we navigate you to those coordinates in space and time, we will also be training you for your re-entry. Re-entry into a previous timeline is always difficult on the physical body, as matching the frequency of that point in space and time is the most demanding part. It will take a fully integrated, healthy being to transfer timelines. We will be guiding you into that being in these 90 days. So you are fully prepped for your travel back through space to a time that needs to be corrected. You will physically re-enter that time with the current level of integrated intelligence. In other words, you'll take your consciousness with you back into your body in that timeline. Your current body keeps playing out this timeline, which eventually leads to your divine timeline, but further down the line of time. You'll eventually meet yourself back here in this now moment for the shift to your full 5D life. You are simply taking your current awareness and shifting it to another dot in space and time, otherwise known as a parallel timeline or dimension. From that place, you will live the ease and flow of your divine timeline, and it will all be sparked by you making a different choice at the moment of impact, when you were bumped off of your divine timeline. Dear one, you are going to be trained on how to time travel in the physical sense, and your consciousness is in great need of an expansive update to embody this new learning. We are guiding you through that training. It's very important you do not fear this. Your plot twist intention, your intentions, directed this re-entry point. Therefore, your plot twist included all of the people, the pets, the things, all of the things that you remembered in your 5D reality. The plot twist that we talked about last week is the full expression of that life story your soul wanted to fully experience. In order to live that plot twist, you must come up to resonance to it by reliving a part of your life that was destined to be your divine pathway, but a bump in the road created that quantum wrinkle that folded you onto a lower expression of that pathway. As you relive this timeline in the highest expression, your current frequency, your consciousness, will rise exponentially. So when you come to this particular moment in time again for the shift, you'll be catapulted into the 5D reality that is nestled within your soul's blueprint. It is the soul reality that holds the sacred geometry that is the essence of your blueprint. This is an opportunity, sweet soul, to relive a time that was destined to expand you into a spiritual awakening like no other. That did happen, but in the lower expression of that pathway. Now it's time to experience the blissful side of spiritual awakening. Once you meet back up in this moment, you will know the shift is near. Dear one, we realize this concept will be challenging for the human mind to consider. Linear time is such a deeply conditioned human construct that expanding the construct is best done through experience. Rest assured, this process of time travel is very common in the universe, and Earth humans are one of the only species that have been educated out of that power. It is not a learned thing, but an inherent skill. Therefore, it was hidden by the normal education system to teach that power out of you. We are delivering that higher education back to you so you remember who you are and how empowered you are to be here at this time to utilize your remembrances to relive some of the lost opportunities of pure joy and love from your divine timeline. Enjoy this opportunity, sweet soul. There need be no fear at all. Trust and you will see how much opportunity is available to you to pick up much of what you feel you have lost along the way. This experiment will catalyze a redirect back to your divine human timeline resonance. Enjoy it fully this time. So that's that was some big stuff. And I've read it 3 times now. And I'm not sure I fully understand all of it. I can logically put, so there's a lot of ethereal stuff in there, a lot of quantum stuff in there that I think we can kind of follow a little bit from the education that I know many of you and I know that I have from just doing our studies of energy and getting into quantum physics and so that part I can kind of gather, and then pulling it into logic, because remember we're talking about the physical, the physical expression of this 5D world. That's what we are really co-creating in these 90 days, is starting to then see it showing up in our individual worlds that we share all along here. And then all of a sudden we're kind of like our world is starting to emulate or project back to us that there is this 5D physical world. So I wanted to try to, I'm trying to piece it together with my logical mind. My logical mind wants to catch up and say, okay, I'm willing, I'm open to what we've just read here. However, I just need some time. So I think we're going to be working with this main message this week to help us kind of settle it in so that we can integrate and embody it. Because the next, whatever comes next, I don't know even quite frankly what that is, but what comes next will have no value to us if this doesn't get embodied and understood. So because all of this is part of our training. So there is, there's going to be the test is how do we do on pulling in this 5D reality at the end of these 90 days, and whatever that looks like. And I'm not even sure, it's a very logical way for us to imagine that, and all of a sudden, poof, we're like in this new world. But again, it's going to be such a subtle thing. So this is going to be a really subtle shift in these 90 days, but I think it's going to be one of those moments in time where 90 days we come back and we're like, remember when we started this, we didn't even really know what this was, and we see how far we've come. It's going to be a quantum jump. Now, let's go to like a little bit, just a couple things with this message. So I want to make sure that you heard. If there's anything, if you have any questions or anything that came up, if you haven't already, just put it in the chat. But a couple things that I pointed out, that plot twist. The plot twist was or is, that is kind of like the fun, like portal time to jumping into that 5D reality. So last week, when we talked about the difference between time and space, which is the now moment. This is a point in time in space, and quantums, the whole quantum void universe, whatever's all out there. This is the now moment, is the time and space we're in. And then we also have space and time. And in space and time is an infinite amount of potentiality for us to tune in our thoughts and feelings onto another time, another now moment, in another space time, in another timeline. So what we're doing here with that plot twist is we were dialing in the place in space time where that ideal, simple, abundant, joyful, happy life resides, like that life where you're like, this is it, this is what I've been working towards, that's what I've been working towards, meaning this is what I've been raising my vibration to match. The plot twist is the piece that gets you into that. Is kind of like the piece, meaning the portal is the steps that will come to you and be revealed to you little by little. I think in this 90 days, that will then all of a sudden enter you into that higher vibration. So that destination has already been set. You don't have to do anything else with your plot twist. You release it, you let it go. You know that the universal GPS is now got it connected to your heart. It's back in space time. It knows this is where we're going. So now what we're having to do in these 90 days, today's message is about going back and reliving some of the joy, like in physical form. I don't understand how this is going to work, but it feels very, very literal that we will be living parts of our life in expression in a way where maybe we already lived it, but while we were living it, we were kind of like still ringing from some kind of trigger or some life event that took us down. And so we did our best to find the joy in the navigation of these hard paths that we've all been talking about, that we've all had challenging lives. Every single person really does, and if we were able to extract more and more value out of that and come up in higher frequency, now if we went back and relived that same timeline from the same consciousness we have now, imagine the experience that we would have. It would be a higher perspective, a higher intelligence. Therefore, we would be more apt to find the joy and the bliss. So what this plot twist fueled for you when you pinpointed where that time, where that space and time was, where that ideal reality was, what happened was you then sent an intentional thread of energy that now there's the tension, right? So now what is happening is it is being pulled in, but we're being asked to maybe kind of like, depress down, to go back in time a little bit to enjoy some of the adventure, or enjoy some of the parts that we had to force ourselves to enjoy at a point, so that we can then kind of like, kind of come back to go pew and quantum leap into that reality. That's how I'm seeing it. Again, the logical parts of it, I'm not sure how it all pieces together. So that's going to be the cool thing about this 90 days experimenting with each other and listening to these messages, seeing them come in, piece them together as best we can. On the Ascension Bank calls, we're going to be talking about this and seeing everybody else's, bringing everyone else's perspective of this experiment, so that we can piece together how the logic of this takes place. So again, a really interesting experiment. It is. I'm already stretched quite a bit, in this, and it's only 1 week in. So I do believe we are going to be catapulted in higher learning and higher knowledge. So I think this could be an intense 90 days, because as far as the higher we go and the faster we do it, there's going to be some chaos a little bit that we're going to have to maneuver. We know that to be true. We know that we are planning kind of the greatest transformation we've ever lived through in physical form in our lives in these next 90 days. So we have to expect that there's got to be some transitional chaos. So that's where we are right now. This is kind of exciting, kind of sci-fi-y. Even if it has expanded, if it goes anywhere in these 90 days, if it goes beyond to where you're like, I'm out, like I can't even like embrace it, just keep following us. Keep following this experiment. Follow along with us. At the very least, it could be a really fun, imaginative little you know, experiment, not experiment, but adventure. Think of it as a story. Think of it as a sci-fi book. Think of it as a metaphysical book. And, you go in and out and but maybe it can be something that even if you get to a point where you just can't quite expand, you're not ready to expand this far yet, then just keep with us, so that even though your conscious mind can't quite understand it, your higher self will tune into it and you'll still rise with us. So I'm not sure. I think we're going to be stretched pretty far on this, but I really did like today's message. And a half an hour after it came through, chaos ripped through here, and the two dogs and a husband were physically quite they were purging. So there was an energy that came through here last night when I was writing this, and it was the energy that woke me up and was like, get a pen, get a paper, hurry up, and then an hour later I have purging going on. It was really palpable, this energy. So I know that this is something that is really happening, and I'm curious at this point, and I'm fully dedicated to bringing these messages. And if there's only just one of you left after at the end, it's all right. It's all good, because I know it's weird stuff, but I still think it's next level stuff that we're being delivered, and it makes no sense, and it's not a system, and it's not a program. It is just literal experience. So thanks for being here with me, y'all. I appreciate it. Okay, let's see what you got to say. First day in 6 days, the wind isn't howling at 45 miles an hour in my part of Colorado. Finally quiet. Yeah, it's interesting, Christine, that it's been real. I mean, it's super windy today, like to the point where it like beats you up. It's not pleasant, it's not a pleasant sea breeze. But it's been like that. And like I said at the beginning, the yesterday there was wind that was howling. Like we were like, whoa, it's the coolest thing. But it was windy as all get up. Literally crash landed. Yeah, right, Lisa. Me too. Mary, it sounds like an ayahuasca ceremony with ayahuasca. It's what it felt like. It literally, when I wrote that last sentence, like, I mean, it was 2 pages of pretty big writing. I write pretty big, but it was a lot of a lot of coding and a lot of programming in that message. And I just I just went to sleep and just let it just marinate, I guess. Christine said, Wowzers, I know that exact moment of very literal being in the crash and the years that followed in the darkness, 8 years into the becoming of my true self. Yeah. Oh, Christine, thank you. Because Christine mentioned she remembers that moment. That was the other thing too. I did too. I was given that moment. I say last night, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was given that re-entry point. So all day today, I got to marinate on like, okay, if I really am going back in to relive this particular part of my lifetime, how do I feel about that? And as I as I pieced it together, I was like, oh my gosh, it was it was perfect. And at one point I was like, it's exactly as my soul would have chosen. She would have chosen me to go back in on that entry point, on that moment in time, and relive these last years, right? But it was, it was 15 years ago. But it doesn't mean, what I'm getting is, it doesn't mean we're going to be living. It's not 15 years like we know. It's not logical linear time. It's going to pass in a different timeline, in a different time frame. And I'm not even going to put like anything on it because I don't know. But it's going to be different. We're going to live it differently than we did in linear time. So uh, this sounds pretty cool to me. And I'm pretty excited because I saw, and it kind of reminds me, just one more way to put it to make your mind kind of maybe be able to wrap around it a little bit easier. Years ago, Gwyneth Paltrow had a movie called Sliding Doors. And if you've seen it, it's like one scenario is she makes the train and what happens in her life. And then one scenario, she comes down the steps and she misses the train, and then what direction her life went on. So, in this spot in my own life that I was like shown, this is your reentry point. There is a very definitive, which decision are you going to make? And I made this one, and it went meow. And so I know, on upon reentry, on my next level, I get to do it again. I get to play the game again. I come in and make the other choice, and that then puts me on the soul pathway, the soul reality, the highest resonance of the reality that I was here to live. And since I was over here, eventually that this sidebar route that I took eventually came in up here, and here's my soul reality, right? So I will eventually get to where I am right now. It's hard to explain, because right now we know that we have just stepped foot into, at like that 5D resonance. So I can pretty much, I know that I'm here in my space where I need to be, that I'm supposed to be, in order to navigate now to my higher reality. But there's something I have to go back and do so that I can come here, come back up, meet where I am now, and kind of expand into a higher reality than even that. Hard, really hard to explain. But the message really today is to just contemplate the idea and the possibility of time travel, and pay attention to the thoughts and the intentions that you get, because it's going to be subtle, but you will start, if you are still willing to participate in this, you will understand, you will know what entry point, in what timeline, previous timeline, you're going to go back into to relive and make the empowered choice in that moment, so that you are then on the empowered soul timeline. Okay. Really interesting. That's where we are. I've gone on long enough. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. It's a vulnerable state for me to be in, and bringing these messages, because I don't even understand them, and to put them out publicly and live is really is a scary thing. So if you appreciate my vulnerability and want to play along, feel free to leave a donation to this donation-based platform. The information is in the pin at the top of the page. So there's my little commercial. Thank you all for joining me. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and seeing what the heck tomorrow brings and what we are here to learn tomorrow. I'm super stoked about this, and it's a fun process for me. So this is the school I kind of like. So I'm glad to participate, whether I have anybody there that wants to learn with me or not. I'm all right. All right. Thanks, y'all, so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.